What's up, everyone? Thanks so much for joining us. You are tuning into the 4th episode of Leaders Unfiltered, and we are excited to have our guest on today's show. I am your host, Angela Alberty, and I am recording to you in person, face-to-face, in real life, in Houston, Texas, with somebody I admire deeply within the industry, and I think I would call you a good friend.
Yeah, right? I think we're at that level.
Yes, we're definitely at that level, and certainly I think you've got a good reputation for yourself in this space, so please, just give the audience a quick overview of who you are, and then we'll get started.
Okay. Patrick Ceant, currently working with Marathon Oil. We were recently acquired by ConocoPhillips, so I got line in ConocoPhillips at the moment. Been in the oil and gas industry my whole career, going on 24 years. I've been in this space with contingent labor specifically for a little bit over 5 years now, and enjoying it, loving it, and I think that's it in a nutshell.
It's you in a nutshell. Yeah, there's a lot more to unpack there, and we will be getting to some unpacking in today's episode. But like you mentioned, you've spent the last 24 years or so in the oil and gas sector. I know you're originally from Miami. You came down to Houston. You went to school in Ohio. So you've been around, but oil and gas has stayed true in terms of the industry that you've served for the last nearly 25 years. So it's pretty cool to see that trajectory in your background. You could give the audience a little deeper dive into where you got started when you got into the oil and gas space. And you mentioned like 5 years ago, you went into contingent labor. So how has that transition look like for you?
It's been good. Starting out, I'm an accountant by trade. So when I started on with Marathon,
are you really an accountant?
I'm an accountant. I'm a numbers person. Numbers make sense to me.
Wow.
But yes, but now I'm an accountant by trade. And so one of the first things when I started working that a mentor who was assigned to me taught me, and this was in Findlay, Ohio, was, you have to get out into the field because to be a good accountant, you can't just see the numbers. You have to see what it is that's actually happening. And once you do that, you'll have a better respect and understanding of the numbers and what you're accounting for. And so I took that to heart. And first opportunity I had, I went to the refinery, Marathon Petroleum. But I worked at the refinery for a little bit over 3 years, and then came upstream with Marathon Oil, and then into auditing. So I'm a big compliance. If you put my career in a nutshell, it's around compliance, contracting, and I would say some cost savings, but really it's around the compliance piece. So everything I look at what's the standard, why we set the standard, and are we adhering to it? Right. And so I kind of channel my career through that. So I've done a lot of spaces within oil and gas, working in the field, drilling and completions, supply chain, financial reporting. I've done it all. I mean, I understand oil and gas thoroughly.
Yeah. Well, and I love how you looked at it from the different lens of compliance, going out into the refineries, which is a very admirable thing to do. It's a high risk thing to devote your life to. And I have one of my brothers is in that space. So deep admiration for folks that do that. But, the compliance lens from the folks that are on site doing that all the way through the accounting competencies, financial reporting, compliance layers into supply chain. And then how was that transitioned into contingent labor?
It's funny because in contracting, so most folks in our space sit either in supply chain / procurement or in HR. Because it is a complex role, right? Because you have compliance, you have contracting, and then there's the people side of it, right? Because these are actual individuals that you're managing in a sense, right? And so it's a complex role, but I think if you look at my history, I think that's why I think I'm successful in it, because I've been in most of those spaces that all comes together. So you have your auditing background, you have your actual contract negotiations background. I've negotiated contracts when I was in supply chain, and now the people side is the fun side, right? That's the side that makes you get up every morning and wonder what is going to happen today. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in accounting, you have finance, right. You have a solution to it. It's logical and it's formulaic. And with human oversight, it's absolutely the contrast of that. If there was from one side of the spectrum to the other.
That's correct.
What are some of the strategies that you have learned over the years in upholding compliance with culture, right? And really in enabling both of the two to marry well so that you can actually make progress in whatever venture that you're facing within your career at that point, more notably in contract labor?
I'd say a couple of things. One, transparency. You have to actually understand and make sure everyone else understands what it is that we're trying to get done. Safety is first. And so with putting safety first, you're going to build all these processes around safety. And that's probably one of the main things I think within our industry and oil and gas industry, and probably should be within most industries, right, is, we need our workers to be able to go home the same way they came in, right? So it's around safety. So once you build through transparency, and then, you have that conversation around safety, now you're going to put processes in place to meet the requirements for you to meet your goals. So that's kind of, I would say that's in a nutshell, if you want to kind of start from the middle to work your way out to understand how I look at our industry and what does that do.
Love that. And yeah, absolutely. I think transparency is one of those intangible items, and to be able to be vulnerable and also forthright into why we need to do things and let people see things at the holistic level is super pivotal. And that can absolutely be the bridge into how culture marries with compliance. But I'm sure that you've also seen some transitions happening in terms of acquiring and retaining the best forms of top talent, right? Whether you're talking about top talent on the FTE side or the SMEs that come in on the contractor level, what do you think, are going to be some of those strategies for companies out there when it comes to retaining top talent?
I think companies and individuals have to be flexible, right? Because our world and the dynamics of what we do, there is change, right? And probably one of the hardest things that we find and I know in oil and gas, is to adapt and make changes. And sometimes people don't want to change because they just don't like change, right? But we have to be flexible within not just our industry and industry as a whole when we talk about talent, because there are going to be times where you're going to have to adjust your team. Maybe you have X number of FTEs, X number of contractors, and vice versa. You might switch it because you might have to scale up and scale down. Sometimes leadership comes and say, we're going to adapt and pivot and go a different direction. There are times you have to lower cost, right? And so how do you do that, right? So you have to scale and scale down. So you have to be flexible in all that we do. We have to be open to change because things are changing. For example, with AI, right? So during the blueprint event you guys held, that was one of the conversations. It's like when you look at total talent, it used to be your FTEs, your contractors, and we're like, well, this AI part of that, right? Or when will AI have its own pillar in that, right? And so it's something we have to be ready for, and we have to be flexible to understand that it's coming.
Yeah, I think gone are the days where it's always been done this way. Flexibility, agility, and that also is seeping into the very workforce that wants to go to up their skills across different organizations. And you're kind of against the traditional path now. There's not very many folks that have stayed at a company for 24 years. That is actually non-traditional.
It is.
Right? And so we're seeing that very presence maintain itself, not only in the way that the organizations need to pivot and scale up and down, but the way that the same workers don't necessarily want to prioritize the tenure as they used to. I remember whenever we would look at resumes, and if they had the bad tenure or what we consider to be, we would pass on that. And now you can't, right? Because they could bring in a broadened scope of skills. And we know that that's an area that is missing. But I want to double down on one of the comments that you just made with AI, right? And we were at the Blueprint event, and I think it really hit home for me to know that there's going to be a potentially different type of way that we procure agentive AI as even a worker type, right? Because that's the way that they would respond. How are they handling resolutions? Is there a wish list item, on the front of agentive AI that you would love to implement into a program or that could help aid your team in getting items across the finish line?
Using agentive AI, I think being honest with yourself of the roles that you have on your team, which tasks of those roles can you hand off? I think there are times where we do certain tasks within our roles because it's just part of the role. And it's like, I'm here for 10 hours. This part needs to be done. But if you took the time and said, you know what, I have to do this, but it's kind of mundane, I can actually hand this off. And so those, it's challenging, right? Because you're going to kind of work yourself out of some tasks within your role.
You have a new competitor.
It is, right? So what you can do, though, you can use that time to actually be a little bit more innovative.
Yeah.
You can use that time to challenge things that hasn't been challenged, things that have been done. It's always been done like this, but you never really looked into doing it. I'm a big proponent of Six Sigma, right? So even though this is my role and my job, I want to know before I receive this, who had it? What were they doing with it? After I'm done with this, who am I handing it on to? What are they doing with it? A lot of times when you do that review, you will find out that talking to the group or the process before your process of you do all these things and you send it to me. They're like, yeah, we do. And you're like, well, I don't really need this part. They're like, oh, thank you. We was doing that just because the person before us did it. And so we thought you needed it and we handed it off.
Yeah.
And vice versa. If you talk to the process owners of the process after yours and asking them, hey, I do all these things. Do you need all these things? You're going to find out there's some things that are like, yeah, you send this to me, but we just don't do anything with it. You can eliminate that, right? It takes time. And the only way you can create time is by removing certain processes. And I think we need to use AI as a tool to provide us a little bit more time and to hand off some of the more task-based processes.
Oh my gosh. Amen. And there's ever been like a day where you realize all you spent your day on was in three things: meetings, notifications, and email responses.
Yes.
Meetings, notifications, and email responses. And when do you actually allocate the time to do deep work?
Yeah.
To actually focus on that project, to actually contribute and into different spurts, and with all of the different distractions throughout each and every day, how can an AI tool be utilized to help enhance our delivery of all of these pings and tasks so that we can focus on the deep work?
Yeah. It's funny, you know, we created these quick reference guides within the program for when a new manager or just someone, man, you know, I haven't done this in a while. Help me out, right? So they'll send you an email. You get the email. They say, oh, I know what they need. They need a quick reference guide. I have to go look for the quick reference guide and email it to them. How awesome would it have been if I had some kind of AI setups that's reading my emails, and when this email comes, like, oh, they just need the quick reference guide, and it attaches the email and responds back to them. How much time would that have saved me from doing it? And it is truly a process that, yeah, AI can do that. AI can read through. I mean, Copilot is so strong. It can do so many different things. So, I mean, there's opportunities. It just takes time for us to sit down and kind of build out how we think it can save us some time.
But you know what I love about the example that you just gave is your folks know that there's QRG available. They know where to get them. Yeah. They got the notification that these exist. But what AI can do is actually enable a human-centric quality and say, no, somebody like Patrick is going to be sending this out to me to specifically reference what I'm having issues with within this QRG. You know, there's a lot of daunting talk about AI and whether or not it's going to replace the human race. And we look at the World Economic Forum and their report. It's going to displace a lot of different roles, a lot of clerical and administrative capacities. But this is where it can create more roles and actually allow us to flourish. So I smile at it.
Yeah.
Wholly accept it. You don't evolve. What is the saying? Evolve or die?
Yeah. And in the human race, we've always evolved, right? Things are just so much faster. Communication is broader. So you're hearing it and you're like, oh my God, you're afraid. It's just that you know more today than you did before. So
for sure.
Knowledge is upskilling.
I was actually on the valid source of TikTok the other day, and they talked about how millennials and some Gen Xers are able to see the revolution of when the internet took place. So they lived both periods before and after the internet.
Yeah.
And they actually marked the last revolution of this size and capacity was at the Industrial Revolution in the 80s. But they are actually predicting that these iterations of advancements are happening a lot faster.
That's right.
As the internet happened, the next one that's coming at us is AI, and how that's going to vastly change. So it is exciting, and we are just moving literally at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
That's right. We're going a lot faster.
We are. And one of the things that is stated in that report by the World Economic Forum that came out earlier this year, talked about how this is going to look like in the next 5 years, is that there simply is not enough skills in the workforce to sustain the path and the trajectory that technology is outpacing the very humans that are servicing it. So we talked about this at the Blueprint event, but upskilling, right?
Yes.
What does upskilling mean? Any thoughts that you want to provide when it comes to upskilling overall?
It's hiring for skill. So skill-based hiring.
Yeah.
Right. I think is part of that conversation, right? Instead of me looking at, per se, your resume and say, okay, well, bring this person in and train them to do this task or this role versus this person based off of what they've done can already do that. So let me bring them specifically for that. And then for the upskilling is, okay, this person has a little bit of all the things that I need. So I can bring this person in and then I can upskill them. We can't be afraid to hire specifically for skills. Because a lot of times we're like, well, no, we have to look at the whole resume. And no, this person has exactly what I need to do this job, but they don't have all the other requirements that we need. Well, you still need to get the job done, right? Well, bring that person in specifically for that skill set and put them in there. Then you might be able to upskill them because you might see they have opportunities for other things to do. But with our total talent, we just have to be flexible with
the resume is going to look like in the next 5 to 10 years. You don't talk, you don't list job titles, you don't list experiences, you list skills.
Because AI, who is being used to filter out through these resumes, right? So now you're going to have, well, does a person have AI write the resume for them to kind of combat the AI?
That's what a lot of people are saying are the negatives about AI is because can it be discriminatory in nature, right?
Yeah.
If it's just parsing out.
That is information.
There's a lot that's there to unpack. And unfortunately, you and I, do you own a crystal ball?
I'm looking for one.
Fresh out? Me too.
Yeah.
All right. So, like I mentioned earlier in the recording, I would consider you a good friend. And I think there's a lot that I admire you, and I like your leadership and your realness, right? Your rawness, which is why you're a perfect candidate for this podcast. So let's go into a real question then. When it comes to some leadership challenges, and this could be, outside of your professional career, you are an athlete through and through, right? So maybe there is a leadership challenge that you've encountered in your own life that helped elevate you to become Patrick Ceant, Jean-Patrick Ceant.
It's a government name for me.
But, is there any leadership challenges that you actually look back on into? That's a deep question.
Deep question. A lot of things are trying to jump into my mind. I would have to go back to sports. And the reason I'm going back to that is I think there are times where you vote on leaders, and there are times when people are forced to be leaders. Forced to be leaders, meaning due to the circumstances, there are some people who just stop, think, and react, and then everybody just follows them, right? Because everybody sees, oh wow, look what they're doing, right? And I go back to that because in sports, a lot of times when you vote for your captains, a lot of times it's a popularity vote. And I can think of a time playing that, it was the quiet, because I was young, but it was the quiet person is the one you see that they just work it, right? And people gravitate, I think, to those that are working, those that aren't complaining. They're like, yeah, it is what it is, but let's go. Let's keep moving. And I think I take that deeply rooted inside me without even really thinking about it. If there's a problem, let's figure it out and let's move forward. You can't worry about why this problem happened and woe is me. It is, hey, put your bootstraps on, put on your helmet, and let's go do this thing. We're gonna go do it, right? And whether it's 20 of us going or 5 of us going, we're gonna move this thing. And what you'll find is even those that didn't want to act, by them seeing you act, and then one at a time, more people just jump in. More people jump in, everyone just jumps in and they go. And that's what I say is, it's okay to be a leader. I think a lot of times people are afraid of leading because they're like, well, what if you go the wrong direction? Okay, at least you go in the direction, right? So don't be afraid to be a leader and don't be afraid to just be you and do it. And if you go in the right direction, people will follow.
There's a saying, and I'm going to try to translate it as best as I can from Spanish to English, but like the only thing that you can control are the next 2 steps you take and the attitude you have when you take those steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's about taking the steps, having the right attitude. So you innately have been able to keep cool, keep composed, not woe is me. And through that same energy follows you. Now, how do you do that, a father with 3 kids? Maybe there's a parental tip that we can squeeze into this podcast. Because, you mentioned sports, right? So I imagine one of your first tips is probably getting the kids into some kind of level of sports, right?
Yeah. I want them to understand competition, right? Because competition is everywhere. I don't care if, and my kids will tell you, it's like, if we're doing something, they're really trying to beat me. But it is in life, everything is competition. You work for corporate America on a yearly basis. You have reviews. How did you do? Not only compared to goals that you set, compared to the other person, how they do against their goals. So they compare you. And I don't know what it is. I don't know anything in life where you truly aren't competing with it, whether it's yourself, whether it's a time, any sport you play, whether you're playing golf, whether you're going for a run, whatever it is, you're like, okay, what did I do last time? Yeah. Right. So we're always competing with something, whether it's within us or whether it's against someone else. Right. And I think that's one thing I want to teach my kids is you're always competing, always do better.
Healthy reality.
Yeah. Always do better. And you can always do better. Even if you did something, let's say you took something and you completely failed it, cool. The next time you're not going to fail it. You might not ace it, but you're going to do one step better. And I think if you, like you're saying, if you keep taking a step forward, next thing you know, you'll be at the mountaintop, right? So don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of that. So I've taught them if you don't think you did good, do better next time because you'll have a chance to.
I love that. Yeah. I can see you guys like trying to do something like air. Whooping on everything.
Yeah. They look at me too. They look like, oh yeah. Chill.
All right, so let's do a wish list item. If you could approach one change, right, when it comes to acquiring talent or considering maybe off the beaten track here of how you would look at creating new talent attraction strategies within organizations, what would that wish list item look like?
Wish list item, I think, one, to not be afraid to think outside the box. I mean, it's okay to hire skill base versus, actual, give me a resume, kind of read through that. Another one is interviewing, going back to the whole interviewing piece, right? I think everything is so digital that you kind of lose the, like, you know what? I like that person. And it's okay to say, I don't think I fit well with that person, right? And for whatever reason it may be, right? And if you don't fit well with that person, then, if you use generative AI to kind of automatically bring them in, you're like, it's not a good fit. A fit if you're working in a team, the team members do matter. They do matter. So, yeah, I guess that's a short wish list, but...
Well, you took it back old school, too.
Yeah.
Not one. Like Caesar always believes in the power of breaking bread together. Yeah. How often do you have the chance to do that with the people you work with?
Yeah, and it builds this cohesiveness. Remember last year doing Lisa's note that she was talking about when she had the team, and they took the time out to actually go to New Orleans for...
Yeah.
Right? Because now when you come back and you have to work, it's a little different. Now that I really know you, I got your back a little bit better. Yeah. I got your back a little bit more. It's kind of like, oh, you know what? Let me help Ange with this. Or, hey, Ange, what about this? You're open up a little bit more. And that's through spending time with people. The big topic is, should people work remotely 100% or should they work, in the office 100%? There's no right answer. But let's not lose the sight of cohesiveness sitting across the table from somebody. The fact that you and I are so close is not because we had all these meetings online, is because we'll actually sit down and we'll talk like this one-on-one.
Yeah.
Right. We'll go to lunch. And it's different. There's a people connection that I think could lose.
Well, and sometimes I think about the younger generations that grow up with the phone, with the laptop, online classes, and how do you build that etiquette of communication and rapport development? And I think if there's any advice that we can give to the younger folks out there that are listening in is the power of human-centric connection and to be able to look somebody in the eye and communicate effectively is probably one of the most differentiating tools that you will have in the future of work in the midst of an AI saturated landscape.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. So thank you for that. I love that.
Another piece of that too is one thing AI won't ever be able to do is have a feeling, right? So if you want to, like I say, separate yourself from that, that is a skill.
Yeah, it's a skill. It is a skill. Yeah. It is a skill. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So we have a thing going on with every single one of our podcasts where I type into ChatGPT. I'm going to say, ChatGPT, I'm interviewing Patrick Ceant. Here's his LinkedIn. What can I ask him? So ChatGPT, speaking of AI and competitors out there, they're going to start hosting podcasts soon. ChatGPT created this question. What's one hard truth about workforce strategies that most leaders hesitate to admit? That was pretty good one, right?
Hard truth. But if we hate to admit it, why would I admit it?
Tell me that, ChatGPT. Read me that.
What we hate to admit, is that I think we are in the middle of a fight, right? Because you want to do right by your business partner. You also want to do right by the supplier. I mean, you want the supplier to be successful. You want them to get people in. We're in the middle of it day to day. Sometimes the suppliers are like, oh, you guys don't respond back. You guys don't do this. You guys don't do that. It's like, dude, I'm fighting to keep this side as well, and vice versa. The manager's like, you can't find me anybody. We've had this posting out for this long, or this person came, they were terrible. You're like, I know. Are actually in the middle. We're trying to get this thing to come together. And you're in the middle of doing it, but to actually sit down and be like, I'm trying to help everybody, I'm trying to bring this thing together. And again, there's a lot of challenges on both sides. So that's the one thing I think we're afraid to admit is that we're actually nice guys.
But you are at the helm of internal and external customer.
That is correct.
Yeah.
That's right. We are servants. We're servants of everybody around us.
Gosh, that's a pretty good one. Well, thank you, ChatGPT. That was wonderful.
I wouldn't have went there, but it took us there.
It took us there. It made us go there.
Yeah.
Well, Pat, it was awesome. Dope to have you on the show.
Always.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank you for joining us. Thank the listeners for tuning in. Any parting words out there, how we can get a hold of you, or if you guys don't follow Pat on LinkedIn, you should. He posts a lot of really relevant information. He's on a lot of different panels. I think you are definitely becoming a voice within the space. You were a game changer last year in SIA. So congrats to you on all of your success, but certainly feel free to leave us with some parting words.
Parting words? I don't know about parting words. Reach out. LinkedIn is probably the best way to do it. Yeah. I'll talk to pretty much anyone.
That's a fact.
If you send me a note on LinkedIn, if I don't respond, it's not because I'm ignoring. Reach back out, I'll at least say hello. But then, we're in a interesting space in the industry, in this environment, and everything that's going on right now. I know a lot of potential business partners have reached out and said, hey, what are we going to do? Just keep moving forward. That's what we're going to do. We're going to have a challenge tomorrow. If everything was great right now, tomorrow will still be a new challenge. So let's just work through this and then get ready for the next one and keep moving forward.
Boom. Thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys on the next episode of Leaders Unfiltered.